Hi everyone! Today we're diving into a comparison between the original Silent Hill 2, released back in 2001 by the Team Silent, and the brand new remake that dropped in 2025 from Bloober Team. Let's get into it. Here you can see the loading screen and some basic character movements. It's a good chance to compare the graphics and camera angles between the original that uses fixed camera angles which amplified horror by limiting visibility and creating tension through uncertainty, and the remake that switches to a modern over-the-shoulder perspective, like Resident Evil remakes, enabling smoother movement, aiming and dodging. Interestingly, the remakes actually lets you break more stuff, and the movement feels a bit more fluid. In the remake, the map updates in real time as you explore your surroundings, which really speeds things up. In the original, there was a noticeable delay before you could even bring up the map, kind of like in Resident Evil, where you had to wait for the door opening animation. But in the remake, you just pull out the map instantly, scan the environment and make notes of key locations. Everything feels a lot quicker and more responsive compared to the original. At the beginning of the game, you have a photo and a letter from Mary in your inventory. That letter is the whole reason James comes to Silent Hill. He believes Mary sent it, asking him to find her. But as you progress through the game, the letter slowly fades away. By the end, it's completely gone. It's a subtle but powerful detail that reflects James' mental state and the truth he is trying to avoid. As James starts to face the truth, what he really did to Mary and why he came to Silent Hill, the illusion starts to break down, and so does the letter. It vanishes once he finally accepts the reality. It's honestly such a clever way to show how the game blurs the line between what's real and what's psychological. So yeah, maybe there was never a letter at all. Just guilt, denial, and a man trying to lie to himself until very end. In my opinion, the combat in the original Silent Hill 2 felt a bit boring. Most of the time you just keep hitting enemies the same way over and over, and it doesn't really add much tension. But in the remake, things feels a lot more intense. Enemies can dodge your attack, hide, and even counterattack, which adds a really nice layer of challenge and keep you on your toes during fights. If you're playing the game on a higher difficulty, which I highly recommend, you really have to be careful with your ammo and how you enter each room. In the remake, there are sections where enemies are hiding, and as soon as you step in, you might get ambushed by 2 or 3 of them at once. They'll come at you from all directions, and half the time you won't even see what hit you. It really adds to the atmosphere and gives you this constant sense of dread, like something could go wrong at any moment. Also, I really enjoyed how the different enemy types feel in the remake. Compared to the original, there's a noticeable difference. In the original, sure, there were different types of enemies, but the strategy didn't change much. You'd just run up, smack them with the pipe until they dropped. In the remake, each enemy feels more distinct and you actually have to think about how to deal with them. So the enemies in Silent Hill aren't just random monsters, they all have some kind of meaning tied to James' mind and his guilt. Like take the lion figure, for example. Those guys just are wrapped up in those fleshy, straitjacket looking things. They kind of represent how James is emotionally shut off and bottling everything up. They can't move properly, they just spray the acid stuff, and it really gives off that whole repressed emotion vibe. Then you've got the mannequins, those weird enemies with two pairs of legs and no head. They look kind of sexual, but in a really disturbing way. That's basically a reflection of James' sexual frustration and guilt about Mary's being sick. It's messed up, but also kind of brilliant in how it ties into the story. And of course, the Bubblehead nurses, probably the most iconic enemies. They're super twitchy, creepy, and again, weirdly sexualized. These are tied to James' memories of the hospital and also the way he started seeing nurses after spending so much time around Mary when she was ill. There's this uncomfortable mix of fear, desire, and guilt going on there. Then there's Pyramid Head, which honestly is on whole other level. He is not just a boss or a scary figure, he is basically James' guilt in physical form. He shows up to punish James over and over again, and when he kills Maria repeatedly, it's like James is being forced to watch a twisted replay of what he did to Mary. It's super dark, but it really makes you think. There's also the Abstract Daddy, which is mostly connected to Angela's story. It's this horrible bat-shaped monster with two bodies kind of fused together on top, and it clearly represents sexual abuse. It's not directly about James, but it shows how Silent Hill works differently for each person. It reflects their trauma back at them. I think the fog in the original Silent Hill 2 looks more natural, or maybe that's just nostalgia talking. Honestly, I really like both versions. But when it comes to atmosphere, the original feels like it has something deeper, something more mysterious to say, like it's hiding something just out of reach. The remake, on the other hand, leans more into raw terror, especially with its intense combat system, which makes the whole experience feel more threatening. The fog in remake is thick and heavy, just like you expect. It really swallows up the street. Buildings fade into the distance like ghosts, and street lights barely pierce through the mist. It gives the town this eerie, drowned in silence feeling, like you're the only person left in a world that's already forgotten you. Now let's talk a bit about the side characters in Silent Hill 2, because they're honestly just as important to the story as James, and each one kind of mirrors a different part of what he's going through. So first up is Eddie. This guy, man, he's something else. When you first met him, he just seemed kind of awkward and off. He is throwing up in the bathroom and clearly not okay. But as the game goes on, you realize Eddie has completely snapped. He's paranoid. He thinks everyone out to get him, and eventually he just starts killing people. The scariest part is that in his own mind, he thinks it's justified. It's like Silent Hill brought out all of his anger and made him act on it. His descent into the violence is basically a darker mirror of James. They're both broken, but Eddie lets his hate take over. Then there's Laura, the little girl you keep running into. She's interesting because she's probably the only character in the game who isn't haunted by some deep dark guilt. She's actually knew Mary in the hospital and was close to her, which is why she is in Silent Hill 2. But she's not seeing monsters or anything. It's just almost like the town doesn't punish her because she's innocent. And what's wild is that she kind of judges James a lot, calls him out, and you start wondering what Mary might have told her. And then of course there's Angela, who's easily one of the most tragic characters in the whole series. Her story is heavy. She went through abuse, definitely from her father, and you can see how much trauma she carries. Her version of Silent Hill is basically fire and suffering. There's that moment with the burning staircase that just hits so hard. Angela's fate feels hopeless, and her line, "It's always like this for me," just stays with you. Each of the characters isn't just there to fill space, they all show different ways people deal with pain, guilt, or trauma. Some fight it, some get consumed by it, and some just try to run from it, and it makes James' story feel even more layered. Alright, let's talk about the puzzles in the Silent Hill 2, both the original and the remake, because this is the one of the more interesting changes between the two versions. So, in the original Silent Hill 2, the puzzles were a big part of experience. They weren't just there to slow you down, they added this layer of unease and mystery to everything. Some of them were honestly pretty tough, especially if you set the puzzle difficulty too hard. I mean, the coin puzzle in the apartment, the poem-based riddle, the prison table sequence, or the hospital box puzzle. They all made you stop, read carefully, maybe even take notes. The game expected you to think, and it didn't care if it took you a while. Even something as simple as finding codes or keys often had this eerie logic behind it. Like, it wasn't just find the item, use the item. It was more like figure out what the town wants from you, and that really contributed to the psychological tone of the game. You weren't solving puzzles just to move forward, you were unraveling something personal, something symbolic. Now, in the remake, the puzzles are still there, but they've been streamlined quite a bit. A lot of them are simplified or reworked to be more intuitive for modern players. For example, the book safe puzzle in the hospital now gives you much more direct visual clues rather than abstract riddles. The coin puzzle is still in the game, but the riddle that goes with it is toned down to be way more straightforward and honestly a lot less creepy. It feels more like game puzzle than a disturbing message from a haunted town. There are a couple of new puzzle elements, mostly environmental ones, like matching symbols or interacting with new kinds of objects. They are definitely smoother and more visually engaging, and that's great if you're more into immersion than brain testers. But here's the thing, they kind of lose that twisted poetic logic that the original had. What the remake does better is accessibility and pacing. You won't get stuck for half an hour straight at the poem about snakes and old men trying to figure out which coins goes where. The hints are clear, the design is more modern, and the game keeps moving. And if you're playing for atmosphere or the story more than a challenge, this is probably a good thing. But honestly, the original does a better job at making you feel like you're part of the town's psychodrama. The puzzle feels like they're pulling you deeper into James' mind. They're strange, sometimes frustrating, but they leave an impression. In the remake, they feel more like tasks. So, if I had to sum it up, original puzzles, more challenging, more symbolic, more Silent Hill. Remake puzzles, smoother, more player-friendly, but little less haunting. Neither is bad, they're just designed with different priorities in mind. The remake wants to keep the momentum going, the original wanted to mess with your head. You know, the more I think about Silent Hill 2, the more I realize it's not really just a horror game. It's more like a slow, personal descent into the human mind. Like, yeah, it's scary. There are monsters and blood and all that. But at its core, it's about guilt, about how we carry it, how we run from it, and how sometimes we're not even honest with ourselves about the things we done. James doesn't even fully remember what he did at first. The town kind of slowly peels back those layers, forcing him to face something he tried to bury deep. And I think that's where the game really hits, like on a philosophical level. It's almost saying that you can't outrun your past. Not forever. At some point, your mind, or the world, or whatever is Silent Hill, is bringing you face to face with it. It's like the town isn't punishing James. Not really. It's giving him a chance to see himself, a brutally honest reflection. And I love the idea, the concept that reality bends around your own psyche. Like you're not in hell, but you're seeing the world through your own hell. And depending on what James does, how he processes everything, he either finds peace or he sinks even deeper. That's such a powerful message. It kind of makes you wonder about life in general, like how much of our suffering comes from outside and how much of it we build ourselves, brick by brick. So yeah, underneath the monsters and fog, Silent Hill 2 is basically this big philosophical question. Can we ever really forgive ourselves, or do we just keep walking through the fog, hoping we never have to answer it? So here's the thing, if you played the original Silent Hill 2, you already know how special it is. It's not just a horror game, it's this deep, emotional, psychological journey that sticks with you. For a lot of us, it wasn't just about the monsters or the fog, it was about the feeling it gave you. That cold, lonely, creeping sadness, it meant something. Now, if you're wondering whether to try remake, the answer kinda depends on what you're hoping to get out of it. If you're a newcomer, someone who never touched the original, then yeah, the remake is probably the most accessible way to experience this story. It looks stunning, the voice acting is modern, the combat is smoother, and the environments are more detailed than ever. You'll still get that powerful story, and maybe it'll hit just as hard, especially if you go in blind. But if you're someone who grew up with the original or played it back in the day and still remember the sound of those rusty gates or the way the fog just swallowed you whole, well, the remake is a bit different experience. It feels more modern, sure, but that also means some things are lost. The weirdness, the awkwardness, the slow pacing, the uncomfortable silence. Stuff that actually made Silent Hill 2 feel wrong in all the right ways. And that's where it gets tricky. For some people the remake might not hit the same. It might even change how you remember the original, or make you wish you never touched it, just to keep that memory intact. But for others, it could be a beautiful reimagining, a new way to walk through the fog with fresh eyes. So I'd say this. You've never played Silent Hill 2 before? Play the remake, but don't stop there. Try the original too, if you can. And if you have played the original, just know that the remake isn't meant to replace it. It's more like a different lens, reinterpretation, and whether you end up loving it or not, the fact that we're still talking about this game over 20 years later, that says something. Silent Hill 2 isn't just a classic, it's a game that haunts people in the best possible way. And hey, if you made it all the way to the end, seriously, thank you. I really appreciate you hanging out and watching. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to hit that like button and maybe consider subscribing. If you want more content like this, take care and I'll see you in the next one.